Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about a piece by the British composer Alan Richardson. Richardson was a professor of piano at the Royal Academy of Music during the 1960s and 1970s. So although he's a 20th century composer, actually his music is very attractive and very melodic and very nice to listen to. Just has the occasional modern twist sometimes. This particular piece is the second movement from his sonatina in F, opus 27. It's the slow movement from the sonatina, so it's a very lyrical and rather melancholic piece with a beautiful sense of melody. Richardson was married to an oboist, well-known oboist at the time, Janet Craxton, so actually it may be helpful to think of the sound of the oboe in this opening theme, so you can see what you think. So for me, thinking of the sound of the oboe is definitely helpful in finding a particular warmth and colour in that right-hand melody. And also you hear that there's a wonderful sort of sense of a long, continuous, flowing phrase. And that's true of the piece as a whole, really. That's something that I would bear in mind in working out how to play it, would be to constantly be trying to think of these long breaths and spans of melody. At one point in that phrase you will have heard a little bit of staccato coming in towards the end, and but for me it would be just a case of being careful about not being too abrupt or brittle with the length of the staccato, so that it doesn't suddenly change the character too much and it doesn't break that longer phrase up into fragments. So I will be going for a touch which is a little bit more relaxed and not too sudden or abrupt there. The tempo marking at the beginning is Lento, Moderato, which appears perhaps to be a little contradictory, but for me it's just a question of just on the one hand finding a kind of lento, a slowness and a relaxation to it, and then on the other hand a sense of flow, moderato, keeping the music moving. So it's just finding a balance between those two things and to find a way in which the music doesn't become too kind of sluggish or static. The middle section of the piece, beginning at bar 11, is a little tiny bit faster, and here perhaps there are a few things in terms of working out and breaking it down before putting it together, because this is written in a contrapuntal texture, largely with two voices, one in each hand, and so of course it might be a good idea to practice each hand individually first. And certainly in a few places there's a little bit of fingering to work out, which needs to then be secure when you put the two hands together, and a few little running notes which need a little bit of working out of fingering. So I'll give you a little flavour of a few bars of this. So again you can hear this sort of continuous, lovely long stream of flowing melody, and both hands when they come together are playing pretty much continuous semiquavers between them all the time. Also it's written in a sort of modal harmonic language, which actually means that you're playing white keys most of the time. The shape of this section is quite simple to follow. It rises up to a high pitch after a few bars and then comes back down again, winds its way back down, and he writes very straightforward and clear dynamics which reflect that rising and falling at the same time. So there's a broader overall shape to that section which is worth trying to capture. Some of the phrasing also, you hear a few slight separations in the phrasing which are indicated on the score. Again, for me, if I think in terms of how a woodwind player would just re-articulate without taking a full breath, so that the ongoing phrase is still going on, but there's that little bit of tiny separation there. At bar 24, towards the end of the piece, there's effectively a recapitulation of the opening theme, but it comes back this time in the major key. And then after a couple of bars it reverts back to the minor, and the piece finishes in a very kind of nostalgic and rather wistful way, with a rather high and delicate sound. So I hope you've enjoyed that little taster of this beautiful piece of British 20th century music.